everyone, this is Maki. When you think of a character who made a big impact in the movie Gundam Seed Freedom, who comes to mind? Many of you might think of Athrun's daughter. Some fans even felt that the title Freedom was made for Athrun. Today, I want to analyze Athrun's fighting skills as shown in the first half of the movie. His opponent is Shura, who pilots Shiva of the Black Knight Squad. It's an intense battle between two pilots of extremely high skill. Of course, be aware that there will be many spoilers from the movie. Are you ready? Hit the subscribe button and start your mobile suit in case of emergency. You can choose your favorite mobile suit. I wish you good luck. Kira's rising freedom is in trouble. That's when Athrun dramatically appears at the controls of the Zugok. Viewers were stunned when they first saw the Zugok. It turns out that the Zugok has an infinite justice Gundam type 2 inside. Many fans were surprised and thought, I can't believe it has justice inside. But everyone remember this in Seed and Seed Destiny. Whenever Athrun worked with Kira, justice always appeared to save freedom in times of crisis. In other words, the way he appeared was enough to pass justices. The scene was designed to send a clear message to the audience everyone. Zugok's true identity is justice. Many viewers were deceived by Athrun's tactics. Were you able to see through Athrun's strategy? Did you realize that the true identity of Zugok was justice? I was completely preoccupied with the Zugok. Athrun had already won over the audience with his dramatic entrance. The Zugok approaches at high speed. The first weapon Athrun used was a rocket. His tactics began at this point. Athrun attacks the Gienstrom. Agnes and Shura can tell from the missile explosions that the Zugok is approaching. The Zugok is not detected by the radar of the latest mobile suits, the Black Knight Squad Shiva and the Gienstrom. This gives it incredible stealth capabilities. Also, the enemy didn't notice the missile until it exploded. In an earlier scene, the Rising Freedom was targeted by the Black Knight Squad. The Rising Freedom sensor detected the targeting laser, and a warning message appeared in the cockpit. This was the same effect used in the Seed battle with the Buster Gundam's cockpit. The Zugok's missile may have a lock-on system that avoids enemy detection. Or maybe Athrun's piloting skills allowed him to hit the target without using a lock-on system. While fans often praise Athrun for his melee skills, this scene demonstrates his exceptional marksmanship. After firing the missile, Athrun adjusts the angle of the Zugok's body. He can use the beam cannon even when the body is turned sideways. However, Athrun understands that the Rising Freedom is damaged and unable to fight. It would be dangerous to approach an opponent capable of incapacitating Kira in the same position. After changing the Zugok's stance, Athrun lowers his legs closer to the water's surface. He tries to keep the enemy's attention on the missile and hide his changing position as much as possible. In addition, the Zugok's legs create a large splash when they touch the water. He uses the water resistance to slow down, while the splash hides him from the enemy. Ace pilots in the Gundam series often use the environment in combat. Athrun's entrance shows the skills of an ace pilot. From inside the splash, the Zugok fires his beam cannons all at once. He hides from the enemy, slows down and attacks simultaneously, performing 3 actions at once. Today we are going to break down the battle between Athrun and Shura. However, Athrun's first target wasn't the Black Knight Squad Shiva, but the Gion Storm. The Shiva moves sideways while deploying its beam shield to protect the Gion. The beam cannon hits the shield, followed by the rocket. Without the Shiva's support, the Gion would have been completely destroyed in the initial attack. Athrun executed his attack very calmly and coldly intending to kill Agnes. It may seem like a cruel decision, but it was very appropriate in dealing with the rebels. Also interesting is Shura's protection of Agnes. In the novel, Shura comments Agnes' skills are too valuable to be wasted on Eldo. Agnes is often seen by the audience as a weak pilot. However, Shura, who has thoroughly studied the combat skills of Athrun and others, found enough value in Agnes to support and save his life. A missile hits the Shiva's beam shield, causing an explosion. If you look closely, you can see the Gion taking evasive action. Perhaps it thought that staying in place would interfere with Shura's actions. Did Agnes just prioritize protecting her own life? Well, that may be true. The smoke from the explosion obscures the Shiva's vision. But Shura can read the enemy's mind. He remains calm and collected. The Shiva emerges from the smoke and charges the Zergok. Charging at the enemy without panicking is cool, but it can be a bad move depending on the situation. With his vision impaired and no knowledge of the enemy's next move, Shura risks being destroyed by a trap. It was an action that seemed like a reckless rush. Athrun probably found Shura's actions odd at the time. A pilot capable of incapacitating Kira was acting recklessly. It may be that from this point on Athrun began to make an effort to carefully observe Shura's actions. Shura continues to use tactics that take advantage of his ability to read his opponent's mind. After the battle at Eldo, Athrun tells Kira and the others their cause may be able to read human minds. It seems that analyzing the Shiva's actions led Athrun to this conclusion. Shura is excited and thrilled by the appearance of the powerful pilot Athrun. However, the more Shura enjoys the fight, the more Athrun gathers information about their cause. This is a true testament to Athrun's skills as an intelligence agent for the secret organization Terminal. The Zergok and Shiva approach at high speed. The Zergok activates his wing-mounted beam saber. Shiva lowers her stance to avoid the beam cannon and beam saber. Their weapons crash violently. Zergok's pose at this moment is similar to the scene in the original Gundam, where Shura's Zergok destroys a gem. However, since the opponent wasn't a mass-produced mobile suit, it couldn't be destroyed in the initial attack. Immediately afterward, missiles are fired at Shiva. The Zergok's wings can rotate, and the missile launchers rotate with them. As soon as the first clash ends, Athrun begins his next move. At that moment, Shiva has his back to the Zergok. An ordinary pilot would have been destroyed by this missile, but Shura can read his opponent's mind. Shiva dodges the missile and creates a duplicate. The detailed settings for the duplicates in the Black Knight Squad series have not yet been revealed. However, in the battle scene with the Archangel, there is a depiction of missiles hitting the duplicates and exploding. It's possible that the duplicates have characteristics that fool sensors. There is no reason why a highly skilled pilot like Shura would use the duplication device for no reason. Athrun charges while spinning the Zergok in midair, attacking with both the arm-mounted heat claw and the wing-mounted beam saber. Let's watch the position where Shura's heat claw is extended. It seems as if Shura understands that the attack will come from the wing-mounted beam saber. In fact, just a moment ago, the heat saber was held forward. Immediately after, however, the movement changes to intercept the beam saber with the heat claw. Shura deliberately avoids attacking the Zergok's body, choosing instead to block the saber. If he knew what the enemy was going to do, he could have chosen to defeat them at that moment. There is a major flaw in Shura's thinking. As stated in the novel, when facing a strong opponent, Shura thinks, I want to enjoy the fight with this strong opponent for as long as possible. As a result, Shura chooses to defend against the beam saber in order to prolong the fight. Seeing this, Athrun probably thought it's as if he anticipates my moves. The hypothesis that their codes can read human minds is gradually becoming a certainty. Let's also consider the scene after Shiva and the Zergok pass each other. Athrun's Zergok faces his opponent faster than Shiva. Since Shura can read the opponent's mind, there is no need for him to rush to face the opponent. This can be seen as a reliance on his ability, but it can also be interpreted as an effective use of his ability. In addition, Shura's fighting style always involves deploying the beam mantle and preparing to attack from behind. Although his back is turned, he is by no means defenseless. The Zergok and Shiva's weapons clash. The Zergok then releases a large amount of smoke from its chest, looking as cool as a dragon breathing fire. However, in the Gundam series, a lot of smoke usually means that the cooling system is working at full capacity. Unlike Shiva, which has its beam mantle deployed, the Zergok is in a state where it needs forced cooling. It appears that the Shiva has a slight advantage in this battle. The Zergok has the Infinite Justice Gundam stored inside it, like extra armor to hide the mobile suit. It's surprising that it can fight the newest mobile suit, the Black Knight's Cross Shiva, for so long in this state. As Kira watches the battle between the Zergok and Shiva, he dismounts from the rising freedom. Calmly observing, you can see that Kira is jumping from an incredibly high place, demonstrating the remarkable physical abilities of a super coordinator. Athrun slowly adapts to Shura's fighting techniques. The Zergok spreads his arms wide and retreats. In a later fight scene, Athrun is shown fighting with a style that avoids unnecessary movement. Here, the Zergok spreads his arms wide as if to lure the enemy into an attack. Shiva pulls back his right leg, a move Shura excels at. It's an attack where the beam sword is hidden by his body and leg. Up to this point, Shiva has never activated the red beam sword against the Zergok. By deliberately showing a large opening, Athrun provokes the enemy into using his trump card. He retreats with his arm shield facing forward. This seems to draw on his experience with the red beam saber in Aegis Gundam and Infinite Justice. Still, the defensive stance suggests that Athrun didn't fully anticipate Shiva's attack and is also preparing to defend just in case. Shiva swings the red beam sword wide for an attack, while simultaneously launching an attack with the unmounted heat sword. He attacks simultaneously with two weapons with different characteristics. This is Shura's first fight against the Zergok. He doesn't yet know the nature of the enemy's armor. It could be face-shifting armor, with a high defense against physical impacts, or it could be called to have a high defense against beam weapons. Using both the beam sword and the heat sword at the same time against such an opponent is a very effective strategy. In the Astray series, the Gundam Astray Blue Frame Second uses a weapon that can switch or fire both beam and metal bullets at the same time. Shura's attack here is based on a similar idea. Shura's powerful attack has been dodged by Athrun. Due to the amount of movement involved in the attack, Shiva is now in a twisted position. It makes you appear defenseless to the enemy. However, with the beam mantle deployed, Shiva is also prepared for incoming attacks. At this point, Athrun launches a rocket attack at point-blank range. Shiva uses her shield to block all attacks. Since Athrun's enemy attack method was unknown to him, he simultaneously defended and evaded. On the other hand, Shura, as if she understood that this was a rocket attack before it began, chose to defend with her shield. Athrun's suspicion that their codes can read human minds probably became even more certain. An homage to Shura's iconic scene from the original Gundam is inserted here, surprising many viewers with both its coolness and humor. Athrun calls out to Kira. His main goal is to save Kira's life. With the information about the mind-reading ability of their codes, Athrun realizes that there is no need to continue the battle. Moreover, when Athrun fought Shiva with the Infinite Justice Gundam Type 2, he barely managed to win. He rationally concluded that he couldn't win with the Zugok. So far, the Zugok hasn't taken a direct hit from the enemy. Athrun's ability to calmly conclude that continuing this way will not lead to victory while still unharmed is very reassuring. However, Shura is not the type to let Athrun go without a fight. He begins his attack on the Zugok. He swings the heat sword in a wide arc. Athrun defends with his arm shield. Shura then swings the heat sword back up for another attack. It's an unexpected method of attack. After fooling the enemy into thinking you'll be switching between multiple weapons one after the other. By using the same weapon repeatedly, Shura is trying to confuse his opponent. However, using the same weapon repeatedly has the disadvantage of having similar attack ranges. Athrun again defends with the shield on his left arm, very moving. This reflects Athrun's aforementioned strategy of avoiding unnecessary movement. Using the momentum from swinging the heat saber, Shura swings the heat claw from the opposite arm. Unlike the beam saber, the heat sword has physical weight, which Shura uses to his advantage. Its unique feature is that it allows you to fight by utilizing physical recoil. The Zugok defends with his right arm shield. The force of the attack pushes the Zugok back considerably. Shura attacks again with the heat claw, but Athrun defends in kind. In the next instant, Shura creates duplicates. He uses the duplicates to confuse the enemy and launches a massive attack with the heat sword. The Zugok defends, but is hit hard. The enemy's chest is unprotected. It looks like Shura might aim for the chest. Instead, he attacks the Zugok's claw. This shows Shura's bad habit of wanting to enjoy the fight, as mentioned earlier. He could have defeated Athrun had he attacked the cockpit. Shura prioritizes his enjoyment over victory, resulting in a missed opportunity for success. This may seem like a foolish move, but consider these: their codes were created to fulfill the roles assigned to them by Queen Or. Both the and Ingrid struggle with those roles. In the final battle with Athrun, Shura declares my role is to win. Yet in this scene, he prioritizes enjoying the fight with a worthy opponent over victory. Could this be seen as Shura transcending his genetically assigned role? It could also represent the moment when Queen Laura's plan began to fail. Shura is voiced by Yuichi Nakamura. He also voiced Graham Maker in Gundam 00. Graham is a character who lives by his beliefs, declaring even in impossible situations, my passion will prevail on successfully damaging a superior Gundam. Like Graham, Shura breaks free from his genetically determined fate through his own willpower. After attacking with the heat sword, Shiva spins around and strikes at the Zugok's arm. This time, the Zugok takes the hit on the side of his arm instead of his shield. Athrun fails to defend himself with his shield. Athrun is backed into a corner by Shura's piloting skills. Shiva twists his body dramatically and attacks with the beam mantle. If you look closely, you can see that he has hidden the heat sword underneath the beam mantle. While attention is focused on Shiva, let's also take a look at the Zugok's left wing. The wing rotates to change the direction of the beam saber. Throughout the battle, Shiva has been fighting with the beam mantle deployed. Athrun had been studying the beam mantle for quite some time. Athrun has watched Shiva's movements and predicted a beam mantle attack. He defends against the first beam mantle attack with the wing's beam saber. Shiva and the Zugok spin together. The way Shiva hides the heat sword behind his back looks almost like an elegant dance. Shiva uses the red beam sword while creating duplicates. Note the Zugok's wings. As mentioned earlier, the beam sword is aimed at his back. Athrun defends against the red beam sword with the wing beam saber. While Seed Series lore states that beam saber blades don't collide, it's likely that the wings are made of anti-beam coated material. This scene prioritizes coolness over detail. The Zugok also uses its thrusters to spin in mid-air. So far, Athrun has focused on defense, but he uses the rotation of his body to strike Shiva with the other beam saber. Perhaps they thought that simply focusing on defense would be dangerous. The beam mantle and the beam saber collide. Shiva then swings the heat sword hidden behind his back at the Zugok. The Zugok lowers himself to avoid the heat sword's attack. It looks like a bow during a dance. Shiva attacks again with the heat sword, but the Zugok leaps backward to avoid it. Both Shiva and the Zugok prepare their weapons. This is the end of their first fight. The novel version includes scenes that were cut from the movie. One of them is the dance between Agnes and Shura. Their powerful dance contrasts with the dance between Ophi and Lars. Through this dance, Agnes' feelings for Shura grow stronger. How does this play out in the film? Shura's dance partner is Athrun. Notice the rear view of the Gian Strong watching Shiva and the Zugok fight. It seems to express Agnes' loneliness as if no one is willing to dance with her. While the novel version is also interesting, the deletion of the dance scene between Shura and Agnes in the movie seems to emphasize Agnes' emotional isolation even more. Athrun, not in his pilot suit, is drenched in sweat and breathing heavily, indicating a very dangerous condition. However, Shura retreats after Ridorot calls out to him. Shura says the exact same line that Shao Aznavour said to Crespar in Shao's counterattack. Will you come with me? Agnes accepts Shura's invitation and retreats with him. This allows Athrun to survive. This encounter is Athrun's victory. As mentioned earlier, Athrun's goal was to save Kira. He also managed to analyze the occult's ability to read human minds. Shura leaves the scene, unaware of his defeat. As mentioned earlier, Shura unwittingly breaks free of the fate imposed by Queen Aura. Shura may be a tragic figure, unaware of not only his defeat, but also his victory. I'm really looking forward to Shura's role in future games and such. Maybe we'll even see scenes of him working with Athrun in battle. Thank you for watching to the end. See you in the next episode.